Welcome to the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions, now in its 26th season. Our panel features a longtime Penn State media and NitWits tag team. Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of Lions 24/7 with Fight on State. The NitWits are hosted by WTAJ's Ryan Riskey. And each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By DeLeo Games, serving the community since 1945. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Solaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntingdon. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Remax Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage, no matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Brent Kogan Electrical Services, lighting the way for you. By NovaCare, Altoona and State College, the power of physical therapy. By Fullington Tours, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from locations in State College and Altoona. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs, candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Harry's Construction, if you can dream it, we can create it. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
It was a dominant win in the whiteout for Penn State as they dismantle Iowa in front of the second largest crowd in Beaver Stadium history. We discuss the Nittany Lions' annihilation of the Hawkeyes next on Nittany Nation Overtime.
Hey, what I'm doing, hey, getting right to it. Yeah, the money is talking, I'm flowing, it's coming in just how I drew it. Yeah, you know what it is. Hey, we doing it big. Look up, there is no limit, no, we cannot settle for this. Yeah, can't stop, nah, won't stop. Yeah, it's been on live. You don't believe it, just watch.
Welcome into Nittany Nation Overtime. As always, I'm joined by the Nitwits, Mark Brennan and Neil Rudell, as well as former Nittany Lions Steve Smear. And guys, they shut out Iowa 31-0. The defense on point. We knew the Iowa offense was bad coming in, except somehow they almost looked worse than advertised with only 76 yards of offense for the game.
Well, you know what? On a night where their defense was so dominant, and we got one of the greats from 68, 69. So let's let Steve start and just what you saw. Welcome.
Well,
always great to see you.
Defensively, they were just incredible. They the defensive ends were just, in there all the time. They put a lot of pressure, on the quarterback. We had good corner support. The guys from the corner slots were coming up and making tackles. I thought our linebacker play was up. The whole defense was really locked in, and I thought they just played a fantastic game.
When you look at the style of Iowa typically, and the fact that early on, Iowa, I thought their defense did about as well as they could for a while. Iowa only ran 33 plays. That's an unheard of number. And I think gradually, their defense obviously began to wear down. Penn State ran 97 plays. Penn State had a smart plan in the way that they wanted to go about Iowa. Hats off to the defense, but I also thought the patience that they didn't want to put Aller in harm's way. You've had quarterbacks hurt against Iowa. Just a really, really great performance.
Yeah, to me, this was a statement game. I don't put a lot of stock usually into past beefs between two teams, but clearly that 2001 game between Penn State and Iowa was still in the craw of a lot of people. And Chop Robinson said it after the game. James Franklin, during the week showed video of the Iowa special teams coach flopping on the sideline kind of mocking Penn State players who they thought were faking injuries in that game. That game in 2021, Iowa really put a beating on Penn State. It was a physical beating, and I think Penn State wanted to send a message. And if you look at Penn State over the last couple years, outside of that Michigan game, they've really done a really good job imposing their will physically. They did it to Utah, which is a team that's really well known for playing physical ball. They did it to Illinois, and now they did it to Iowa. So to me, that's a statement game that this team is ready to bring to physicality, and we can see around college football what a touchy subject that's become with certain coaches.
You know, I think one thing to factor in, the defense just got so much better as the game moved on. I think Iowa only had 16 yards in that second half.
They only had the ball for 5 minutes. Penn State had the ball for 24 minutes in the second half. I mean, just some of the numbers. Iowa had 2 first downs deep into the fourth quarter.
Iowa had, I think it was 90 tackles or something, and Penn State had 24. And that's
right.
So when you talk about the defense, Ryan, I mean, yeah, guys were teeing off because as good as the starters are, they're bringing guys off the bench who are just as good. And when you're only out there for 33 snaps, every one of these players is coming full bore. And then some of the different twists we saw. You know, everybody's talking about the 3 defensive ends, which was really cool to see. And Steve, you can talk about that. But they also flashed a little bit of 4 linebacker sets. So they are doing all these different things. Manny Diaz, wow. You know, year 2, you can see where everybody's really buying into his system.
You know what I was, one of the things that impressed me was the way Aller handled himself inside the red zone. You know, he was up against one of the best defensive coaches in college football. And, you know, he took what they offered him. 3 yards and out, you know, little dink and dinks here. And it was never intercepted. It was never thrown for a loss. I thought he really played well inside the 20-yard line where, you know, they dial up different defenses. They play combinations. They're usually a zone, you know, defense team, but they play all different combinations once you get in the red zone. And Aller just picked them apart, you know, just by throwing, you know, 3-yard outs. And
he just took what they gave him.
Exactly.
You know, the offense, you know, they've been conservative the past few weeks, except, you know, that's been able to get them the win. The defense has done their job.
Yeah, I mean, they're 4 for 4 on fourth down. You know, they only averaged 4 yards an attempt. You know, he had 37 passes to get 166 yards. But I agree. You know, he has been very smart with the football. Here's a guy who's yet to be intercepted. The team has not made a turnover. They're the only team in the country that has not made a turnover.
yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the other thing about Aller is I like what Yurcich is doing in giving him options. You know, when you have a 4th and 1 situation and you're letting that kid pass, and not only pass to Khalil Dinkins, a guy, yeah, he hit Dinkins last year in garbage time for a touchdown, but that was a key moment of that game.
Yeah.
And to have a young quarterback make that decision and then go to a young tight end, I really like the options that Yurcich is giving this kid, and they sure do seem to be clicking. And again, I think it's another thing with both of their coordinators. These guys are both multiple years in, and I think it's showing with this team. Now, there's one other area where it's not showing, but we can get into that a little later.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's just kind of like they're getting more people involved. As we saw, you know, the tight end usage, which we'll get to coming up. Except, like, you know, they're not taking chances and they're not beating themselves.
Yeah, after the game, James went out of his way to praise Mike Yurcich and the game that he called, because I'm sure there was a lot of give and take on how James wanted the game called also, and I think that was sticking with the run, being patient. You know, they haven't had explosive plays, but he didn't want them against Iowa because I don't know that they felt that they could protect Aller quite long enough for him to be deep in the pocket for a while.
Well, and the weather. I mean, you're talking about the weather. You're talking about the only way that Iowa stays in that game, in my view, is via turnovers.
Right.
And then the other thing that I really like, okay, listen, nobody's looking past Northwestern. Nobody's looking past UMass. Everybody's looking past the bye week.
Everybody's looking at the open day.
Yeah, but what I will tell you is they still have a lot of stuff that we haven't seen that they're going to be able to use when they roll into Ohio State, which should be fun.
And they've been in an unfortunate position that they haven't had to use all of that right now. So anyways, we're going to have to take a quick break right here. When we come back, we're going to discuss the offense more in depth about the tight end usage and Keandre Lambert-Smith. Don't go anywhere.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By DeLeo Games, serving the community since 1945. By Reed and Selene Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. And by McAlear's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back into Nittany Nation Overtime. We're discussing Penn State's big win in the whiteout over Iowa. The defense dominated, and the offense did their job, guys. And Drew Aller, 4 touchdown passes.
Yeah, but you talk about the play calling, and Aller is running for some tough first downs, and they're using this rugby scrum now with Tyler Warren. They should have put you guys back there in the offensive backfield,
Put
right?
Reed back there.
You and
push the
Freight Train
quarterback.
Reed. But I'm impressed with some of their short yardage offense. I think the play calling is, it's a well-coached football team.
Yeah, we said before the season, everybody kind of knew what Theo Johnson was all about. But Tyler Warren is a guy who's been banged up, and I think it was just a matter of time until you started to see what he was all about. And now, a couple of touchdown catches, being the guy who does the pushing on that. I mean, they have 2 really high-quality tight ends, and then you throw Dinkins in there, who, again, came in. I know he had a drop late in the game, but to make that catch when he made it, and he was really well defended, I think overall that tight end group, maybe not the best in the nation, Neil. I know you take offense when people say best in the nation.
No, I objected to the room.
The room. But
Actually, yesterday they were.
It is a really good group, and it gives them a lot of different
And they
options.
got Theo Johnson involved right away.
Yeah.
I mean, he caught 6 balls.
I'll tell you what, Theo Johnson goes up and makes that one catch, and
Yeah.
if he doesn't get that, that may have been Aller's first interception of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a good, when they use the tight ends, they're involving them really well. Tyler Warren, 2 touchdown catches, and then Theo Johnson, he had a good game against Delaware after really we didn't see them against West Virginia in week 1.
The guy that I thought righted himself was Keandre Lambert-Smith. I think he's just been okay at so far this year, but yesterday he was very good. He had 6 catches or 8 catches, and 6 of them I think were for first downs. He still had a penalty, but I think that he looked like he was the go-to guy because Wallace still must not be 100%.
Yeah, I thought Cephas had one nice catch and showed a little bit of zoom. And Liam Clifford, I mean, he keeps stepping up and just making key catches along the way. But the one thing I will say about Keandre Lambert-Smith, listen, the talent is there. When they start going deep, he's going to be a guy that they look for. But veteran, come on, you're too good. You are too good to be making these personal foul penalties. What I did like is after he did it this time, and again, this wasn't as egregious as the thing at Illinois, but he had the personal foul in this one. They took him out for a couple snaps.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody's saying bench him for the game,
Right.
but again, this is your best receiver. I think he's a future NFL talent, and he's the leader in that room, a dynamic personality. So the more you get out of him, the better.
Yeah, and I think he has been that guy who's tried to emerge as that number 1, and he's had to do it even more because Trey Wallace hasn't played the past couple weeks.
What do you think of the receivers?
I think they've, they haven't acquitted themselves as good as you would have liked, but to date. But I think they're coming on. I think they're getting a little better. Especially, we got to get more out of Cephas. I mean, everybody expected him to come in and take a big role in their passing game, and so far he hasn't. But I think they're working him in slowly, and we didn't see Malik.
McLean, yeah.
McLean?
Well, yeah, I
He
think the
didn't play
issue
much?
there was he had 2 drops. He was targeted
Right.
6 times against Illinois, had 1 catch and 2
Right,
drops, and
right.
1 catch for 6 yards. The one thing I would say about Cephas, Steve, is the fact that he didn't enroll until the summer.
Yeah,
So some of these other kids who transferred, when you get to enroll for that spring semester, but I think it goes to what you're talking about. I think as you see him play more and more and more, he's going to get better and better and better as he gets acclimated because the skills are there.
Right.
I mean, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but I thought we saw a little bit of zoom from him on that one play. And the other guy, Caden Saunders, listen, he muffed the punt, but I just think I like what I'm seeing from him in the passing game. I like what I saw the previous game, and I think he has some things that could help him there.
Yeah, he's definitely gotten more involved. And then, as you said, Cephas had a big 3rd down catch. Khalil Dinkins, if they don't score a touchdown on that drive near the end of the second quarter, it's a completely different game.
Yeah, and I thought a big play in the football game was when Penn State punted it, it shanks off, it bounces off an Iowa player. Really might have been one of the plays of the game because it's 3-0 at that point. Penn State gets the ball on a short field, and they hadn't really finished any touchdown drives up until that point.
Well, a couple of heads-up plays by Curtis Jacobs. I mean, if you look at the first fumble he recovered, he was nowhere near when that ball came out, and he just hustled and got in there. And then on the punt, he just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But, Steve, you could speak to this. That's what good players do, right?
Exactly.
You somehow find yourself –
always run to the ball.
Yeah.
Joe used to say, run to the ball, run to the ball. Franco,
Yeah.
when the big catch that he had in the Super Bowl.
the big catch. Don't they have a name for that? Is there a name for
The
that?
immaculate reception.
Yeah, he said, as soon as the ball was in the air, he was thinking, run to the ball. Joe said, run to the ball, and he took off to the ball, and that's what happened. It fell in his hand. So
Ran into immortality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And then another avenue of the offense that was great, the Rutten game, 215 yards, and the carries were split pretty evenly. Katron Allen led the team with only 74 yards.
Yeah, Singleton had a couple bursts. He had a really nice 19-yard, and I like the way they're throwing the ball to Singleton and trying to get him in space. Overall, though, I didn't think the running game has asserted itself quite like I thought it would be so far.
I think it kind of feels like they're just waiting for that one explosive run to really get going.
Singleton seems like this close on a few plays every game, but there's a big difference between being this close and being able to actually pop it.
It seems to me like they're hesitating, though, when they get up to the line. They get the ball and they're, like hesitating instead of like making a cut, going to the left or to the right. It just seems like they're losing some zip and some momentum there as far as I'm, watching them, and getting the ball and the way they move.
How do you think their offensive line played?
I think they played pretty well. I'd like to see them play better. I think, we need to get bigger holes. There should be bigger holes in there. You see some holding in there, some really blatant stuff. I mean, there were a couple times when guys were just really holding on. But I like the way that, they're doing much better, I think, in these last couple of games than they did, previously.
Well, it's like NASCAR. If you're not cheating, you're not trying,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And then every play somebody's holding.
Yeah, we've seen that in the Big Ten for years. It's like, when's Penn State going to finally start doing it? So
Exactly.
credit Phil Troutwine for teaching them how to do it.
Exactly.
How to hold.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to have to take another break. We've discussed the defense and the offense. Up next will be the special teams when Nittany Nation Overtime returns.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Monarch Cleaners for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By RE/MAX Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. And by Star Beverage. No matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back into Nittany Nation Overtime. And guys, seems like every week the special teams, there's some good and some bad. Curtis Jacobs, heads up play recovering that fumble. Actually became the first Penn Stater since 1991 to recover 2 fumbles in a game. It was just a heads up play.
Yeah, Mark D'Onofrio. How about a shout out to him 30 years ago? I was disappointed. I agree with you, and I wouldn't want to see his opportunities taken away because I think the good, even at receiver, has been better than the punt returning so far. But Saunders yesterday just didn't make good decisions. Right away, he fields a punt that's on its way into the end zone at like the 5 and pins them deep. Then he didn't field a couple that he should have. You're back to having troubles with your field goal kicker. So I think that's an area that really has to be shored up.
Well, everybody was counting as far as Iowa was concerned. They thought that their specialty team was going to help them out really big time in this game, and they really didn't. They have a really good specialty team, but against Penn State, they just didn't do it. Their assistant coach, who's the specialty guy for them, is a renowned specialty coach, and they didn't do anything yesterday.
Well, I would say that their punter was great.
Yeah.
But he's like their team MVP
Exactly.
he was great in that game in 2001 as well. Penn State was able to overcome it. And I would also say Riley Thompson, I mean, his numbers haven't been terrific either.
No.
Now, sometimes it's tough. When you're in against that punter, who may be the best punter in the nation, and you're trying to compare apples to apples, you know, was he run into on the one play? Was he not? I mean, he was run into. Should it have been a penalty? Yeah. In my view, I think officials should err on the side of caution there, but they didn't. But I just think the bigger issue is just more broad, that every week, as Ryan was saying, it's every week there's 1 or 2 or 3 things coming up. And that doesn't hurt you when you're blowing a team out. But if this keeps up, it's going to cost them a game somewhere along the way, because you're going to get into a game where every one of these plays matters.
And as good as the Iowa punter was, Penn State helped his average by not fielding these punts. You know, you look on the other side too, you know, the special teams, you know, Iowa makes that mistake. And the other thing I didn't understand, special teams was a really big factor in the field position in this game. I couldn't believe Iowa didn't try to return a kickoff. I mean, they can't move on offense. At least try to return a kickoff.
Yeah, because they had some success earlier. You know, against Western Michigan, you know, they brought a couple back. But, yeah, I think they were pretty cautious back there.
Well, Western Michigan doesn't have the gunners Penn State had, and that's what I think. I think the analytics is telling them that. But I agree. Once you get down that far, you might as well give it a whirl.
Yeah, I mean, especially as you guys said, the way the offense just could not move the ball. So, anyways, we got to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to crown our Nitwit of the Week. Stay tuned.
What was it this week?
Don't miss a minute of Nittany Nation Overtime, now also on Apple and Spotify.
The Nitwits are being brought to you by Brent Kogan Electrical Services, lighting the way for you. By Fullington Tours, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from locations in State College and Altoona. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
All right, time to crown the Nitwit of the Week, and it's once again Mark. You've won 3 out of the 4 weeks this year. Neil, you've still got a good goose egg.
Wow. Thanks for the reminder. I'm well aware.
I didn't realize. That's pretty cool.
Couldn't see the graphic right there, could
Let's
you, Neil?
squeeze them this week. Come on.
Yeah, well, and then as we said, the winner always has to pick first. Mark,
right.
I almost feel like you're cheating because you keep winning every week.
What, you think I'm like Anderley? I'm not cheating. Give me a break here. Sorry, Anderley. Sorry, I'm kidding, Anderley.
Feel the love.
Yeah. Listen, just doesn't it feel like it could be a trap game for Penn State? I mean, not in terms of losing, but going out there's probably going to be 1,500 people in the stands.
Go ahead.
11 a.m. kick. I still don't think it's going to be that close. I'm going to go Penn State 38, Northwestern 7.
Ooh, 31 you're saying. Okay. I'm going to have to go a little bit higher than that because I don't see
You're
Northwestern.
desperate, that's why.
I don't see, I am, Northwestern covering. I mean, you thought Northwestern had a bad situation until Michigan State happened a few weeks ago.
And then Minnesota.
Yeah. I'm going to say Penn State. Northwestern's coming off a great win, comeback win. I'm going to say Penn State 40 and Northwestern 12.
You know, and I think something to look at, Northwestern's overcome a lot of adversity. They've got 2 wins after they only won 1 game last year. And then, you know, the running joke was that they hadn't even won in the United States because that game was out of the country when they beat Nebraska.
Good line.
So they've responded really well to the adversity with the whole hazing scandal with Pat Fitzgerald. I do agree Penn State's streak of scoring 30 or more points will continue. I'm going to go 34-10. Penn State wins this one.
Well, I wouldn't worry. David Jones said he picked Iowa to win. So
now we know that Dave Jones has arrived. He gets a shout out on the Nitwits. I love it.
well,
Not for the right reasons, though.
I'm going to say 45-14.
So all expecting kind of a blowout, except you never know what this game could be because, you know, 11 a.m. kickoff on the road, you know, it's just probably not as much motivation when you're playing a team, you know, playing at Ryan Field. It's really not that great of a field.
Well, for sure, and you're heading into an open date there, so it'll be a little test of, the fact that they still have some things to work on coming out of this game, I think should benefit them.
I would also say real quickly, I mean, I think the real key here for Penn State over the next 3 weeks is maintaining this momentum. It's almost like, it would probably be good if they played Ohio State next week instead, but that's not the way the schedule plays out. So you got to stay focused through these next week and next couple weeks and be ready to go when you get to Columbus.
And hopefully you can get some of those kinks worked out before you get to Columbus, especially on the special teams.
A quick shout out to the whiteout crowd too. In the rain, 60 short of an all-time record. Just terrific atmosphere.
All right, guys. Well, that's all the time we have. Thanks so much for joining me. You can catch us every Sunday following the Penn State game and following the 11 o'clock news. We'll be back next week to recap the game against Northwestern.
Thanks for watching WTAJ's Nittany Nation Overtime. Tonight's show is brought to you by DeLeo Games, Cisney & O'Donnell, The Student Bookstore, Joe Comfort Toyota, Legends Power Sports, and Belding & Mall.
The Nitwits have been brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By DeLeo Games, serving the community since 1945. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed & Salaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By McAlear's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By RE/MAX Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage, no matter what type of weather, we are a convenient drive-through, one-stop beer store. By Brent Kogan Electrical Services, lighting the way for you. By NovaCare, Altoona and State College, the power of physical therapy. By Fullington Tours, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from locations in State College and Altoona. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Harry's Construction. If you can dream it, we can create it. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.